Let's start just, Dan Kovalik, by telling us what you'd most like people to understand about your book. We have this book right here, The Case for Palestine, why it matters and why you should care.
Yeah, well, I think the main reason I wrote the book is to explain, frankly, to a mainstream American audience that what's happening in Gaza, this genocide that's happening in Gaza, the conflict in Gaza, didn't start on October 7th, right? This has been ongoing as far back as 1948 with the Nakba, in which 750,000 Palestinians were forcibly displaced by Israeli militants, gangs in many cases. And even before that, with the Balfour Declaration of 1917. And Americans have not been taught about that history. In fact, they've been willfully encouraged not to even look into that history. Palestinians have largely, as you know, and been made invisible on purpose. And you know, that goes back to the myth that the Israelis had of the land without a people for a people without a land. So the whole idea was they moved to historic Palestine, but there weren't any Palestinians there.
Right.
And they now are making that a reality. Right now they're making it a reality that there won't be Palestinians left, and there won't even be a memory of them left. And that's why I wrote this book.
And you just came back from Egypt. Tell us about your trip to Egypt.
Yes, I was on a delegation to Egypt with some lawyers and also some trauma experts. We were taking testimony from Palestinian evacuees from Gaza about the crimes that they suffered in Gaza at the hands of the Israelis. People should know that Egypt now has about 100,000 evacuees from Gaza.
Since October 7th?
Yes.
Okay.
And these folks, what most people don't know is almost all these folks had to pay about $5,000 to $6,000 per adult, $1,000 per child to come into Egypt. And they paid it to a company owned by the son of President Sisi, right? It was very corrupt. Now, I don't want to totally, criticize Egypt because at least they took them in, but these folks can't put their kids in school, they can't work, they don't have resident status, so they can't travel. It's a very tough life for them, obviously better than what it was in Gaza. And the point is, we went there to talk to people about the atrocities they suffered in Gaza, which are absolutely horrific.
And the main thing you had to be able to get out was this $5,000 or $1,000 per child. I know someone who got out, someone I was in touch with on Facebook, who was trying to get out because he had shrapnel in his body.
Right.
Did you have to be wounded, or was
to
there
go
anything
for
other
free?
Than having the money?
Yeah, if you had a certain medical condition that needed treatment, which you couldn't get in Gaza, which of course you can't get hardly any treatment there now because Israel's destroyed all the hospitals, or even like a cancer, or again, as you said, if you were wounded, you might be able to get in to Egypt for free. That is true. But short of that, you had to pay. Even if you were living in a tent and your area was being bombed every day, you had to come up with that money. And so many people that I know of, I have a lot of friends from Gaza now living in Egypt, including a student of mine who went to the University of Pittsburgh School of Law for years, a foreign exchange or foreign student. And they had to raise money from friends. Many of them bankrupted themselves, basically emptied all of their life savings
To get out.
to get out. And they've already lost their homes, right? They've lost generational homes that were in their families for generations, or some, and they showed me photos of these, some people who had just built brand new homes that had taken them years to build, years to save for. Those homes are gone. Now their savings are gone. Now they're in a country where they have no right to work and no right to schooling and no right to travel. These are people without a country, and that's been true for so long. The Palestinians are a people, they're the people without a land.
Yeah.
And that's what people have to understand. And everything's been turned on its head, right? The aggressors have been made into the victims, and the victims have been made into the aggressors. And again, that's what I wanted to dispel in the book.
And are these people, are they living in like a concentration camp? Are they living in some kind of settlement where they can't move around because they don't have all these rights, they don't have residence status?
It depends. It's a great question. Now, if you're a person without means, you are living in these cinder block tenements that house only Palestinians. Only Palestinians can go in there. There's curfews. I wouldn't say it's like a prison because you can leave, and we met people who left to visit us inside, downtown Cairo. But it's a very austere life, and it's a ghetto because it's all Palestinians. And again, even me as an American, I would need special permission to visit there. And in fact, our delegation asked for permission, and were denied it. So, as I said, they basically live in their own ghetto. Now, if you're a person of means, a Palestinian of means, and you can afford an apartment or whatever, yes, you can do that. But most of the Palestinians who came, certainly by the time they came and spent the money to cross, have nothing, and so they live in these tenements.
And is there any effort to resettle them in the West or in Africa or anywhere else? We've heard about resettlement efforts, even as outlandish as the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Right, they've talked about that.
Yeah.
Well, Israel, as you said, has thought about the Congo. They've thought about the Sinai Desert. That's their first choice.
Right.
In Egypt, of course, ironically, where the Israelites spent 40 years wandering in the desert. They want to put the Palestinians in the same desert.
Wait, you say that's their first choice? Israel's first choice is to force all these people out into the Sinai?
Into the Sinai. And in fact, they offered Sisi, and I guess to his credit, I'll get to this, to his credit, he refused this offer. And the offer from the United States, who's helping Israel with this ethnic cleansing, was, we're going to help you pay off your $185 billion in foreign debt if you build tents in the Sinai and you take in all the Palestinians from Gaza into the Sinai. And to his credit, Sisi said, we are not going to be a party to your ethnic cleansing. We're not going to do that, and he turned down the money. And so, again, when I talk about Egypt, I do want to say, they're between a rock and a hard place. They do want to provide some refuge to Palestinians in need, but they also don't want to be parties to a wholesale ethnic cleansing of 2.3 million Palestinians. So that is a difficulty. And as far as I know, no one else is taking these Palestinians. Again, once they cross into Egypt, unless they're Egyptian nationals to begin with, and some are, because, as you know, Egypt was the protector, I guess, or lack of a better word, of Gaza from about 1950 to 1967. So there are a lot of Palestinians who have a mom who's Egyptian or a dad who's Egyptian or Egyptian, have some, and so they would have some more rights to try to leave somewhere if they had the money to do it. But most who have no Egyptian nationality are coming to Egypt and they're trapped there. In fact, I'll give you an example. There's a woman we met with a tragic story. So, in a massacre by the Israelis in Gaza, she lost her husband and she lost her oldest son. Two of her children, her two daughters, including a 5-year-old daughter, who is now, and I saw the pictures, burned by illegal white phosphorus. That girl and her sister, this woman's daughter, who's 18, are in the hospital in Ankara, Turkey right now, while the mom is trapped in Egypt, and her two younger sons, who are not even high school age, are still in northern Gaza. She can't get her sons to Egypt, and she can't get from Egypt to Turkey to see her daughters. And again, this is the fate of so many people.
She has two daughters who were injured by white phosphorus?
At least one was injured by white phosphorus. The other one had a serious back injury. Actually, when she saved her 5-year-old sister jumping out of a building to escape the shelling in the white phosphorus. So that, that again, they're people without a country. They can't travel, and I don't know, again, of any of them who have the ability to leave and go anywhere else at this point.
Okay, and was there actually a proposal on the table to move the entire population of Gaza out into the Sinai?
Well, yeah, not a public one, no, but a private one, yes. Those discussions were had with Sisi. There was a plan made up by the United States and Israel to do that. Again, the U.S. and other countries would have paid to build the tents. to do that, and they were willing to pay off Egypt's debts for that to happen. Those discussions happened. And we know early on that Netanyahu and other leaders were talking about removing all of them into the Sinai. And I think, again, that plan is not off the table. They would still like to do that. And who knows, if they give Egypt the right price, maybe they will take that. Though I will say that the Egyptians on the ground, including the military people and the cops, are furious at Sisi for not doing more to help the Palestinians. Egypt has legions. They have a navy. They could do something like Nasser tried to do in '73 to help the Palestinians, and they're not. And the people of Egypt are furious about this. So if he went ahead and built a desert encampment for the Palestinians in the Sinai, I think he would be overthrown. I think he would not survive that situation. So, but that's the plan. That's the hope. And at this point, short of that, they're planning on wiping out all of Gaza, and that needs to be discussed. And that raises the next issue, if I can talk about it, because we're sitting here looking at a truck for Kamala Harris. A lot of people are like, oh, you're here to protest the DNC and Kamala Harris. You must support Trump because you're going to get Trump elected. And here's my response. I don't want Trump to win. I don't want Kamala to win, right? I'm going to vote for Jill Stein, and I realize she's not going to win, okay? I realize one of the two are going to win. At the same time, I have one concern right now. That no matter who wins, whether it's Kamala or Trump, and whoever's better or worse, they won't even be inaugurated till the end of January of next year. The people of Gaza don't have till January. There's a famine now that is wiping out the population. Polio. All kinds of preventable diseases. Smallpox. There is no potable water left in Gaza. The aquifers have been destroyed. There is no way to get potable water. There is no food. I have friends still in Gaza. All you can do is pay exorbitant amounts of money. $100, for example, for a little piece of meat.
Well, nobody can do that. Nobody can do that.
No one can do it. And even if you could, all that means is whatever food is in there now is the food they got. No food's coming in, no water's coming in, and that's the other thing, good morning, about Egypt that you need to know. The Rafah crossing between Egypt and Gaza, which was the main route for humanitarian aid, has been closed by the Israelis since May 7th.
Well, there is some small amount of aid trickling in.
Not from the Rafah crossing. There's nothing.
Okay.
There's nearly no aid coming in. And in fact, if you want to, I encourage people to support the people of Gaza, but if you give to a relief agency, all they can do is get food and water that's already in Gaza to people there. There's no way to get it in. Israel has closed off every crossing. There's no way to get it in by water. You remember Biden built that ridiculous port that now is gone.
The $300 million port
that never worked.
Never worked in no time.
And will never work now.
Will never work. Yeah.
And so you have famine. You're seeing photos of emaciated babies dying, and of course the babies that don't die, if they're lucky not to die, they're going to have permanent brain damage because of the lack of nutrition. You have the most maimed children in any conflict known in history. You have tens of thousands of orphaned children. So now you have maimed, orphaned, starving children. Who's going to take care of these children? It is an unreal situation.
Yeah, UNRWA reported that 10 children in Gaza were having one or both legs amputated every day.
And now without anesthesia.
Without anesthesia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an incredible thing, Anna. And again, that's why we're here. That's why we're in Chicago to protest the DNC. Again, you may say, oh, Trump's a bad guy. He's worse than Kamala. Hey, I'll stipulate to that. But the point is, this is a Democratic war. The White House is run by the Democrats. The White House is running this war. The White House is giving billions of dollars of military assistance to Israel all the time, including 2,000-pound bombs. Military experts in the U.S. say they wouldn't use 500-pound bombs in an urban setting like Gaza because all you're doing is murdering civilians. We're giving them 2,000 bombs to wipe out whole neighborhoods at once. And this is Biden, this is Harris, this is what they're doing. And we have to protest them now, because again, we don't have till January to wait for some promise change, which, by the way, probably won't come anyway.
Tell us about your trip to the West Bank.
Yes, I went to the West Bank in December, and that was, again, a couple months after October 7th, obviously. And it was my first time to Palestine. And I went into Jordan, I crossed the King Hussein Bridge into the West Bank. And I mean, it was an incredible experience. I mean, you really see, you know, a lot of people talk about apartheid in Israel, Palestine. And you see it there. You see the walls that surround everything and everyone to separate. They're separation walls to separate the Palestinians from the Israelis. You see the checkpoints. You have to go through checkpoints if you're a Palestinian, even if you're not a Palestinian. But if you are a Palestinian and have to go through checkpoints, those are occasions to be harassed, to be imprisoned, to be raped, to be murdered by the Israelis. I'll give you a little example, again, of what life is, even under the best of circumstances. So, I was there during Advent, and I wanted to go to Bethlehem, and I was staying in Ramallah. Distance between Ramallah and Bethlehem is something like 15 miles. You should be able to go there in about half an hour. It took 3 hours, because you have to go through all of the checkpoints of the Israelis, or try to go around them. Which I was with a guy, he's almost 80 years old, by the way. He was born before 1948. He was born in 1946. He's Jewish. Nicest guy in the world. He insisted on personally taking me to Bethlehem. He said he could get us around the checkpoints, which he did.
So this was a Jewish person native to Palestine.
Correct.
Yeah.
Who supports the Palestinians. He's actually a Fatah. He's in Fatah. So, he's an interesting guy. His name is Yuri Davis. I talk about him in the book. He was writing, by the way, in 1987, he wrote a book about Israeli apartheid. He was a very early proponent of that theory. And, but the only reason we could go there at all and make it even in 3 hours and 4 hours back was because he had a yellow Israeli license, not the license plate, what do you call it?
Stick.
The thing on the front of your thing.
License plate.
Yeah, license plate. He had a yellow Israeli license plate. If you're Palestinian, you get a different color, and if you have that color, you can't go anywhere. If there are people who I have met in Palestine who've never been to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, who've never stepped inside Jerusalem, they're not allowed in. The Israelis can go anywhere with that special yellow license plate, and the Palestinians cannot. I mean, that is apartheid. That's what we're talking about.
You have Palestinians in the West Bank who've never been able to get into Jerusalem.
Right. Yeah. And you have even Palestinians who are lucky enough to be from Jerusalem and they're therefore allowed to live in Jerusalem, travel in Jerusalem, who still can't get in the old city to see the Al-Aqsa Mosque. I mean, that's how intense the segregation is there. And now, and people need to understand this, Israel really is now at full war with the West Bank. Not the same, it's not a scorched earth policy like Gaza, because it can't be, because so many Israelis live there. But they are attacking the Palestinians in the West Bank with incredible force. There's now estimated to be anywhere between 10 and 20,000 Palestinians in jail. Most of those have been arrested since October 7th. Many of them have been arrested from the West Bank. And as we're learning more and more, even now from mainstream sources like the New York Times, who report on it once in a while, the treatment of these prisoners is incredible. They're being raped, they're being beaten, they're being killed. 60 prisoners have been killed in jail since October 7th, many of them having been arrested without any charges.
Tell us about the persecution of the Christian community.
Yes. Well, that's an interesting thing. Most people don't even know there's Palestinian Christians. Most people don't know that Jesus himself was Palestinian. But that's true. And there are many Palestinian Christians. There's a lot less than there used to be in historic Palestine, because most have left. And they have left not because of what Israel claims. They say, oh, Hamas scared them out. That's totally untrue. They have left because they are being persecuted, particularly in the West Bank. For example, the Church of the Nativity, which is built over the cave where Jesus was born, that was actually attacked by Israel. I mentioned that in the book. I want to say in 2008. Don't hold me to the date, but it's in the book. Where they shelled the Church of the Nativity. They shot people inside the Church of the Nativity. And that's a more extreme example of what's happened in the West Bank. But in Gaza, after October 7th, they actually have blown up historic, ancient Christian churches there on purpose. Because they want to get rid of any remnants of the Palestinian Christian community, because that's a very inconvenient community for them. Why? Because you have so many Christian Zionists who support Israel. In fact, even Biden says he's a Christian Zionist, right? Mike Pompeo is a Christian Zionist. Mike Pence, who's vice president, is a Christian Zionist. It's very inconvenient for those people to know, oh, well, the Israelis are persecuting Christians. Many Christians, when they walk around the old city of Jerusalem, if they're seen to be a Christian, if they're wearing a cross, they will be spat upon, or their cross will be taken from their necks, right? Again, these are inconvenient facts that aren't discussed much, and again, I talk about this in the book.
Did you have any contact with the dissident Orthodox Jews in Israel?
Not with Orthodox per se, but again, I had plenty of contact with Jews in Jerusalem who support the Palestinian people.
Oh,
These
okay.
are the bravest people you ever meet. One woman, I'll tell you, so in addition to Yuri Davis, I met with a woman, her name is
Yuri Davis again, that was
the gentleman who took me to Bethlehem.
Who was 80-some years old, who was born in 1946.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Correct. So I also he actually introduced me to a friend of his named Leah. I forget her last name, but it's in the book. There's a photo of her in the book. Who's Jewish. She's fairly an older Jewish person who's an attorney in Jerusalem, in the center of town, who represents Palestinian political prisoners and has for many years. And of course, she's persecuted by other Jews who are Zionists, right? They hate her for what she does. So she has a certain amount of freedom because she is Israeli and she is Jewish. But, you know, hers is a hard life. She's very isolated there. But it doesn't stop her. She's an incredible human being. And those people need to be talked about. Sadly, there's not as many of those people as there used to be in Israel, but those people do exist. There are people to this day, Jews in Israel, who try to protect Palestinians from the settlers, who try to steal their property, try to steal their land, who beat up Palestinians. You know, there are those people. And again, there used to be a lot more. There used to be a stronger kind of leftist current in Israel. There used to be a socialist Zionism, a labor Zionism. Most of that's gone. Basically, Israel's now been ceded to the right wing. And even if Netanyahu left tomorrow, it would be substituting another right-winger for him, which has to be known. But I do, you know, the Jews in Israel who support the Palestinians, those people they exist and they need to be applauded. And again, they're an inconvenient fact also for the Western press.
And is that just a really tiny sliver of the population?
Now it is. Now it is. In fact, you saw last week after on Israeli news, they broadcast a video of a Palestinian prisoner being gang raped by Israelis. They took a poll in Israel on whether people thought it was okay to rape Palestinians. A plurality of Israelis, 47% to 46%, said yes, it's okay to rape Palestinians.
So, Dan, it sounds like, I think it's just hard not to feel like it's a hopeless situation. I never imagined it could go on this long.
No one
I don't
does.
think any of us, when it started, thought that we would still be here this many months later. How many months is it? It's like
9
months. I think everyone thought it would be over by Christmas. that Biden would say, look, Netanyahu, okay, you've killed enough people, it's time to back off. Nothing like that has happened there. More 2,000-pound bombs going every day. New F-15 fighter jets, the top of the line Air Force, just being purchased by Israel, which actually means that the U.S. gave Israel money, Israel spent the money paying Martin and Boeing for these top of the line fighter bomber jets.
Right.
Where do you see this going?
Well, first of all, I think what you said is very important, and let me say that people who think that Biden couldn't stop it are wrong. In fact, you know, those of us who are old enough to remember Ronald Reagan and who were peace activists back then, and I'm one of them, remember what a warmonger he was. But at some point during the Israeli war in Lebanon, he told Menachem Begin, he said, you're killing too many civilians, you got to stop it, and he stopped it with one phone call. Biden could have made that phone call, and he's lying when he says he makes that phone call or he tells Netanyahu that. It can be done, and as you say, it hasn't been done. I don't think it's going to be done. I think, where do we go from here? I think, first of all, you know, the American people who are disgusted by this need to protest. They need to call for this to stop. I think that we have the power to stop it too, through protest. I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe that. But I also think, look, you know, it may be settled militarily between Israel and Hezbollah and Hamas and Iran. We'll see.
Settled? I mean, settled in a regional war?
Well, I mean, it would be terrible, and I don't wish for that. But look, nothing's being done to prevent that regional war, and that's what Netanyahu wants. We now have, what is it? I think 1/3 of our Navy is now in the Mediterranean.
Right.
We are preparing for that regional war. And sadly, that is how probably this will end, is with a regional war. That's not what I want. I think we need to protest at the top of our lungs to prevent that. But I think that's where we're headed. If you wanted to know what I think realistically, that's probably where we're headed, because that's what Netanyahu wants. And I don't know if Biden, Harris, whoever's running the White House now, I don't know if they want it, but they won't stop it. That's clear to me, or at least not at this moment.
Well, there must be some people in the Pentagon that have more sense than that realize the kind of arsenal that Iran has, the kind of friends Iran has.
Yes, well, I think there are probably people in the military who don't want that war. But the thing is, you know, we do have a civilian form of government where the civilians control the military. They may press for it not to happen, but if the White House wants it, they will get it. And I think that the White House with Biden basically out of commission, let's face it, because of his, you know, mental capacity or lack thereof, and because of Harris, frankly, doing nothing but campaigning, I think the White House has been turned over to the neocons, like Anthony Blinken. I think they're running the show, and I think they are pushing for this regional war because that's what Netanyahu wants.
Well, say, okay, that's bleak, but here we have an Israeli flag. We have a counter-protest coming over here.
And look at the cops. By the way, you should turn around and show the cops.
Yeah, okay, we're now surrounded.
We're surrounded by
bicycle.
Chicago.
We're now surrounded by Chicago bicycle police. Back of them are some vans. I keep forgetting the name of this group. There's some sort of black men for Kamala Harris with these huge vans who come to park alongside the protest. They did this yesterday also during the protest organizers' press conference. These things say Black Males Challenge 2024, who really cares? And they have a picture of Donald Trump on one side and Kamala Harris on the other. I'm not going to give out their website because I don't want to encourage you. Have you got it there?
Yeah. All right.
Okay. I'll give it out anyway. Okay. Team BMW.
This is not the, okay.